Recorded Books and RB Digital present Theater of Spies by S.M. Stirling. Narrated by Todd Mclaren. Prologue. Washington, D.C. Iron House. Consolidated War Department, Navy Department Headquarters. Situation and Maps Room. November 6th, A.D. 1916. 1916b. Point of departure, plus 4 years. President Theodore Roosevelt stood with his feet braced and one hand gripping the lapel of his morning jacket, the other thrust into a pocket and clenched into a fist, looking at the maps that showed the great war's fronts and alliances and disasters, scowling through his pince-nez and his mustache bristling. It was an expression as formidable as his more famous tooth-bearing fighting grin. Officers of the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps, and a few from the Coast Guard, bustled quietly amid the clack of keys and murmur of telephones, updating the maps on the walls, or directing the whack girls in their crisp uniforms, who used long pool cue-like sticks to push markers on the big horizontal map tables that showed the movements of friendly and enemy units, and who manned, or perhaps staffed is the right word, he thought, the coding machines and teletypes that linked the room to the far-flung legions of the Republic. The thought came with a relief of a brief moment's whimsy, as he gave a fond, proud glance at their patriotic, youthful earnestness. And if they were doing soldiers' work, why shouldn't they be in uniform, albeit with skirts a mildly shocking 3 inches above the ankle, and get the same pay and ranks? He'd plucked Helen Varick Boswell from the Women's Bureau of the party to organize the Women's Auxiliary Corps for the Army. And anyone who didn't like her being General Boswell now could just go and do that other thing. Roosevelt and his aides and personal secretary and Secret Service bodyguards attracted a few glances, despite the disciplined intensity of the work. It suddenly occurred to him that the national vote would be tomorrow, and that he hadn't thought about it in days, which must be a first for a president standing for re-election, much less for a unique 4th term. 4th, if you count taking over for McKinley after the assassination in '01, which I do, since the amiable old duffer had all the backbone of a chocolate eclair and never actually did anything in all his born days, bless him. Not without a push, usually from me. Against his usual custom, this time he hadn't even ridden a special train from city to city and town to town, giving whistle-stop speeches to impromptu crowds. Events had kept him pinned to Washington. Not that it matters. The result's even more of a foregone conclusion than it was in 1912. And that was never in doubt after poor Taft's heart attack. How long ago that seems. A horrible thought occurred to him. God have mercy on us. If Taft had lived, Woodrow Woodenhead Wilson might be president now and facing this. He shook his head as if to shed the image, though the news was bad enough to inspire any number of morbid fantasies. God or fate or destiny had spared the United States that, at least. He'd swept back into office on an unprecedented wave of support, the strongest mandate since George Washington's, a vote for his plans to seize the dawning century for America and the new nationalism. One of the things he'd done since was take the nation by the scruff and make it face up to the fact that it was a dangerous world now, and that you had to be prepared. Getting elected is only important because of what you do once you are. These maps are more important than electioneering. There were 3 on the section of the wall he was staring at, showing Paris, London, and Bordeaux, where the top echelon of the French government had retreated after the first airborne gas attack on Paris in May, which had seemed so terrible at the time, but had only contained conventional
Sample complete. Ready to continue?